So who are you?
Hey, I'm Alan Stern from CenterNetworks and my new application, CloudContacts.
Yeah. So your business is scanning business cards, because I sent 4,000 of my business cards to you.
Right.
And you scanned them and it did a great job. Tell me what you're learning about looking at other people's business cards.
I think probably the biggest thing is that, well, there's a lot of things. I think first it's pretty interesting. So for example, most people they still put fax numbers on business cards. Why, I don't know. But a lot of people, a lot of companies are not putting even a web address on the business cards. That's unbelievable to me that in today's web or the 2010 web, that you're not having a way for somebody to contact you or to connect with you. They're almost leaving it so that you have to call them, and that just seems so 1980. So that's probably the biggest shock, is that people aren't using the connections as much. I do see some cards with Twitter on them, some cards with, I think we've had about 5 or 6 with friend feed URLs on them.
Yeah.
Lots of phone numbers, obviously. The other shock is that people actually print business cards with just their name on them. I thought that was really interesting to me. There's no other information on the card at all, just their name. And it's like, I don't get it. Why would you spend all that money to print a business card with just a name on it? But that's been something interesting too. But we've seen, like, for example, in Israel, we've seen a lot of cards that have ICQ on them. Yeah. A good number of, like Google, for example, prints their cards, a lot of them with QR barcodes. Yeah. So you can hold your mobile phone up to the code and it automatically dials. That's pretty cool too.
Are you doing anything with those codes? Are you scanning them yourself?
No, nothing at all. Actually, though, if you go to the website after you log in, you can actually see a QR code for each person, so you could easily dial them with your mobile as well.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so we create them.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And how does your business work? How much do you charge to scan a business card?
So it's $29.95 for 100 cards, up to $124.95 for 500, and then it goes up from there depending on how many you have. I think so far the average order has been somewhere between $350 and $375.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking. I thought most people would have like 100, but most of the orders have been a lot more than 100.
Well, I think you're going to get, the first customers are going to be people who are really good networkers and are overwhelmed with their, you know, they have too many business cards to just sort through them. You know, if you only have 15 business cards, you don't really need an online service to scan through them and import them in Outlook and stuff like that. But when you get more than 100 business cards, then all of a sudden, oh, I can't scan these anymore. And they're useless to me. I can't look through them anymore. I need a way to get them online where I can do a lot more with them. Yeah,
we actually, though, what's funny is you talk about like 10 or 15. We actually have people that are signing up for our monthly program, which allows you to sign up for a 20 card package a month. And people are actually doing that. We get, people will send me 1 card a day. People will send 2 cards a day. Because what you can actually do is take a picture of the card with your digital camera, or you can put them on a scanner. So a lot of companies have these, you know, large industrial copying machines that can make PDFs and email them. So they'll put the cards down on the flatbed. They'll click email, and it just emails us the file, and then we process them as well. So it works pretty well that way too.
So when you got my cards, what did you do with them?
So that's the only thing we don't talk about. It's like Kentucky Fried Chicken, 18 herbs and spices. As long as the chicken tastes good, don't worry about how it's made. Sorry, that's the only thing we don't share.
Okay, because it's pretty cool what you do. Because when you sent me the page, it had a picture of the card on both sides, and it was turned into text. It was great.
Yeah, so we transcribe everything, including notes. So a lot of people write notes on the cards where they met the person or all kinds of different things, and we transcribe all of that as well. And you can actually, we just launched the gallery view, so you can see all the business cards, all the pictures of the business cards at once. So apparently some people they can recognize a person based on what the card looks like. So,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. What I'd like to do is actually pull in, I don't know if this is possible, but I'd like to try to pull in Facebook photos so that you can actually see the person, because obviously it's easy to recognize who you meet based on what they look like. So I don't know if that's possible. It's something I'm looking into.
No, I'd love that, and also I'd love that I could click a button and say update the card based on Google Contacts or based on Facebook information, because a lot of people put a lot of information in Facebook, but Facebook doesn't let you suck it out, do they?
Right.
It's really too bad that I can't merge the 2 databases and say keep it up to date, because like I have Stuart Butterfield's card from when he was at Ludicorp, right? When he started, and he was the founder of the company that made Flickr, right?
Right.
It was called Ludicorp back then, and so. That's an out-of-date card. I don't even know if the phone number even works anymore, so I need to, but Stuart Butterfield still exists, so I want his latest information brought in.
Sure, I hear you.
How did you, what's the infrastructure that you built the site on? Tell me a little bit about how you built it and how building a modern, because it's a brand new service, right? It's only a couple months old, or it's less than a year old, right?
Yeah, we launched in November.
Yeah, so tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's built in PHP with CodeIgniter framework. Actually, the CodeIgniter framework reminds me a lot of Cold Fusion. I know that's probably going to hurt all the PHP gurus out there, but Cold Fusion was a really easy way to build web applications, because instead of having to know the programming, you just use little Cold Fusion codes, and it did things, right? You put in one word like CF mail, and it knew that meant make this whole mail application. And I think CodeIgniter is very similar to that, so I like it a lot so far. We use Amazon S3 for the storage of the images. It just seemed like the best way to go, and the bill's like $4 a month, so how can you beat that?
That's awesome.
And actually pretty cool, today they announced that you can actually send them a drive, and they'll import everything from the drive. And I actually love that idea, because as we continue to add more images to it, I'd love to just send them a drive and have them put everything on there instead of having to make these backups all the time. And then we're using Rackspace/Mosso for the hosting, so that's your baby now.
Yep.
And so far it's been pretty good. In fact, we've been using Mosso for about a year. It was very rough in the beginning, but it's much better today.
Yeah.
And it's something I would recommend it today. Whereas, and we've been using CenterNetworks on it since we started.
Yeah. What else are you seeing out there? We talked a little bit about businesses and the 2010 web. What do you think is the trends that you're keying in on? What would you recommend to a business owner who owns a restaurant? What should they do with their website to make a better business?
I think businesses need to just realize that today you have to go to where the people are. So if your customers are on Twitter, you should be on Twitter. If your customers are on Facebook, you should be on Facebook. If your customers are women, then go to the places where the women are. Where I used to work, we used to market to women all the time, and we built tons of websites and tons of promotional sites and games and everything, but people had to come to our site to engage with them. I think today, if I was still running the strategy there, it would be about getting out to sites, like a Cafe Mom or an iVillage, and building relationships with the women that are there already, instead of building it back where we are.
No, that's absolutely true. I'm going to be on an aircraft carrier with a mommy blogger person, who has a big mommy blogger network, and there's BlogHer, right? And they just got a lot of funding. So there's these networks of communities of different kinds of people that you can go and interact with. Anything else that you're noticing happening out there? Because you're an interesting guy. You get around the world and do this. You did the CenterNetworks blog, and you see a lot of interesting stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're seeing is
particularly here in New York. You might talk about that.
I think New York is pretty interesting. I mean, there's obviously a ton of stuff going on here. I think one of the interesting things about New York, I find, is that everybody's just working. So you don't see it. When I go out to the West Coast, if I post a message on Twitter and say, hey, I'm at this Starbucks, in 5 minutes I have companies that want me to write about them. Here you don't see that as much. Here you see companies actually hands down kind of just banging out work. But there's a ton of great startups here. A lot of them don't always get the due they should, because they're just working and building companies. But I think there's a lot of great stuff going on here. Yeah.
Anything in specific that you can remember that might be a trend or something that you're noticing? Or something that's cooking, because we're in the middle of a recession right now, and during the last downturn, a lot of things were cooking.
Right.
Blogging was cooking in the last downturn, and as the economy came back, blogging became more important, right? And the Web 2 movement became more important. Are you noticing anything like that cooking in the environment here?
I think we're seeing a lot more utilities. I think we're seeing, if you look at the financial services like Gizio or Mint. You're seeing services, even just like mine, where it's about saving time. And I think you're also seeing applications that are now charging, which I don't think you saw 2 or 3 years ago. Everything was free, and now you're starting to see people charging. And you're also seeing people charge up for iPhone applications and things like that. And I think that's going to continue. I think the trend from my perspective is about utility, about time saving, and I think it's about creating new business models and not just relying on advertising supported, because that seems like that just won't work anymore. So you need some combination.
Very cool. Where should we find you? CenterNetworks.com? Or?
Yeah, sure. CenterNetworks.com or CloudContacts.com.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.